Hello. Are you guys ready? I'm not. I hate this. I have beer in the fridge for later, though, so we'll see if I crack one of those early. I should set up the goal for spice. All the colors. Let's go that. Spice! Alright. Welcome. I hope you guys are ready. I'm not. I fucking hate this shit, dude. Charlie Kirk is the worst. Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, the, Iran, Israel thing that is currently going on. That is still ongoing, and if Charlie Kirk brings it up, I have a couple of, citations, for Charlie Kirk's attitude. I would like to, again, point out, this was only 2 weeks ago that this was posted. This was in June, so this is not that long ago, so, we'll see how he's, may or may not have flip-flopped. But, shall we get into this? I think we shall. I think let's just zoom on through this and rip that band-aid off and go as fast as we can. Let's go! We're into the debates now. So this is basically going to be, we're looking at who's, like the students are coming forward to have their discussions. So let's see how we do.
Thank you so
Thank
much. And I'm going to shoot to Q&A, so
Would you like me, the show trial will begin?
I think one of the best ways to bolster an argument, to construct an argument, is to...
Oh, so we're cutting out who these people are, and they've cut all that out. Interesting. Okay, well, the best way to construct an argument. Let's go.
I think one of the best ways to bolster an argument, to construct an argument, is to foresee potential counter-arguments and to address them. And because you've been doing this for quite some time, and you're well-versed in what you believe, in your ideologies and your beliefs, if you were in my position, what would you ask yourself that would be most effective in challenging those core tenets?
I love how tiny she is, and that's a pretty good question. The problem with that question isn't her. The problem with that question is, this is Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk is not honest. And so an honest interlocutor, an honest person that you're having some kind of discussion or disagreement or debate with, would do something like this. But this is Charlie Kirk we're talking about, and so that this question is a little bit maybe misplaced. Unless, she's probably just trying to expose him for being a lying liar lies, but,
Thank you for that question. I didn't expect that. So
yeah, of course you didn't expect that. Did you hear his voice crack? Yeah, he was not ready for that.
In challenging those core tenets.
Thank you for that question. I didn't expect that. So respectful and thoughtful. I don't know if you're a liberal or not. I don't know, but because it's implied in your question that you are. Is that correct or not? Because you said
answer the question, Charlie. Why does it matter what her political affiliation? Jesus Christ, we're off to a bad start, guys. guys, we're off to a really, really bad start. Oh, Charlie, no.
What would you believe as your core tenets? I don't know. But anyway, do you want to remark?
I take it as a compliment.
Okay,
No,
great. Okay, that's fine. Always come into every conversation believing that you might be wrong and that you might learn something. And you guys go here to a ridiculous...
What's the fucking answer to the question, Charlie? Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Are you a leftist? Are you Muslim? Are you white? You're clearly not a man, so that's a mark against you. You're short. Trump is going off on AOC impeachment. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Cry harder.
Old institution that has some of the greatest thinkers that I admire, Tolkien, Lewis, the list goes on. And I don't know the core canon of what you are studying, but I can definitely tell you in America, there is a de-emphasis of the thinkers and of the writers that were once, let's just say, embedded within the core curriculum of a place like this. And
I would like to remind you that the question is, what is something that Charlie Kirk has considered as an argument against his own positions?
And I would encourage all of you that are intellectually honest, that are on the left, that are liberals, to know what conservatives believe better than conservatives. Read our literature. Read C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. Go read...
Oh my god, C.S. Lewis. Oh my god, Mere Christianity. Oh my god, I'm having fucking flashbacks to fucking 2005 or whenever the fuck that started. Oh, it probably wasn't 2005, it was probably closer to like 2012. Alright, go on. C.S. Lewis was not a great thinker. His children's books were pretty decent. Yeah, that's about what I would have the same opinion as Smitty. As somebody who read and had 2 full sets of the Chronicles of Narnia and read them multiple times, both throughout my school year and in my spare time, he's fine. He's fine as an author. I mean, I almost find him and Tolkien on opposite ends of the spectrum, where Tolkien is just bogged down with detail. There's almost not enough in Lewis. So, you know, whatever. That's just my opinion. I only just studied literature and dropped out of school. What do I know? For 200, quote, I'm not sure if you're a lefty, liberal or not, end quote, how he has to force himself to be respectful after being inside his echo chamber for so long. Yeah, he has to try really, really hard. And again, he has still not answered this person's question. Still hasn't answered the person's question.
Read Edmund Burke. Go read Russell Kirk, of which I share a name, no relation. Go read Milton Friedman. Understand it. Spend time with it. Treat it with respect. Don't just do it as a passerby. Because the very few, and there's a couple, right-wing students in this room, they've done that to all the left-wing ideas. No, it's fine. I'm calling them out.
Not every piece of literature deserves respect. I don't need to read all of Jordan Peter's books and waste my time studying them and meditating on them to know he's a dumb motherfucker. I would again... Voyage of the Dawn Treader and The Silver Chair are really fun. Yeah, they are. Both of those are probably... They're definitely, like, also both stories that take place outside of Narnia, but in Narnia's world, which is kind of bizarre, but yes, they're both quite fun. Read Discworld. If you want better, more story building, better authorship, better storytelling, read Discworld. Do I have to have respect for Narnia? I like it, but why do I have to respect it as if it doesn't have Santa Claus in it? Yeah, that's a good point. Let's just pretend that Narnia doesn't have Santa Claus. Anyway, answer the question, Charlie.
Because they've done that with the left-wing ideas. They've had to. You cannot proceed in many universities without having to reckon and reconcile with that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I just want to quickly...
That doesn't answer the question at all. It didn't even come close to attempting to answer the question. Good God! The question was, what do you have for arguments against your own position, Charlie?
Go on from that. I did my undergrad in the US, and so...
What school?
Michigan State.
Oh, go Spartans, yeah.
Go Green, go White.
And here she is just fucking dunking on all of his fucking stereotyping and assumptions that nobody knows anything about America, when literally everybody knows way more about America than they ever should have to, unfortunately for the rest of the world.
And so I've, here and there, I've been labelled leftist, rightist, so I've heard it all.
I hate labels, honestly. It's ridiculous, so.
I hate labels, except that's literally the first thing I asked you.
Very sweet, so. Yeah.
Thank you. And I wanted to know if you believe that, I know your views on college education, specifically in the US, and that you believe that it does not deliver what it should. Do you think that, whether right or wrong, that because you don't have that degree, your influence within society might be restricted compared to, for example, Jordan Peterson?
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Keep going.
that's, yeah.
You're exactly right. This is a barrier that I have to overcome. I did not go to university or college. I just went straight into doing stuff. And
he dropped out. He dropped out. He was paid to drop out. That's not new. By the way, I do have some fun stories to share, as somebody in Dapper's chat claims that somebody in their family went to school with Charlie Kirk and had some funny stories to share. So they have provided me with those funny stories, which I will share with you. But soon, at the end of this.
Criticism I get is, well, you didn't go to college, therefore you're not capable of dialoguing. That is inherently...
That, I don't think anybody's actually saying that. I think people are saying, you don't have the education, and you don't know what you're talking about, and you didn't even go to school, so you don't even actually understand how it functions in the first place. My criticism is he doesn't understand how school and what school is even supposed to do in the first place, and he mostly doesn't like that because when you have an education, you tend to be more left-leaning. And you tend to be more left-leaning because you're educated, because you actually understand what the fuck is going on, as opposed to not.
Argument from an authority. But yes, that is a good argument if you want to be taken seriously, because it's, of course, a barrier. Because people...
Baba makes a good point. Isn't this basically just teach the controversy, except political? Yeah, it is. It is basically teach the controversy, but, like... Let's teach the controversy as if, like, maybe the fascists had a good point. Like, no! Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't teach that.
It actually only motivates me more to learn more and to dive deeper and to become better understanding of these ideas. But yes, there is at least in the States, of which you studied your undergrad, there is an emphasis on the credential. However, that also...
Kind of. Like, but... So yes, he's not entirely wrong. It's not solely an American thing. If you have a credential in something, people tend to take you more seriously because you've studied that thing. But the emphasis on the credential when it is applicable is a reasonable, like, it's not a bad thing. Like, I am not educated. I didn't go to Oxford. So I would suspect that somebody who is educated in whatever topic they bring up, right, who's been to Oxford, would have more to say on the matter or a more nuanced view than I'm going to as an ignorant slut. But it's really funny that Charlie does this when Charlie's fan base, who have managed to infiltrate... I'm joking, it's not infiltration, it's just... have found my videos and posted about how much of a dumb fuck I am. And it's like... So, like, when it's Charlie, it's being not educated is a plus, but if it's me, it's not. Confirmation bias. Go figure. I think in some cases credentials are overblown, but not all. And it's very case-by-case basis. I think if you're an expert and you are talking outside of your field as if you are an authority and you're grossly wrong, then you should have know better, and therefore you should face harsher criticism. So, like, for example, like, Answers in Genesis does that all the time, right? 100 top. Maybe people should read conservative literature like Mein Kampf so they learn how dumb fascists actually were. Yeah, this is the argument, is like, you if you're gonna comment on religion, you need to read the Bible. Not understanding that, like, yes, we've read the Bible, people come to different conclusions. That's the point of the Bible. You're supposed to come to different conclusions. You sell yourself short, Chesh, you're semi-educated. Okay, but I don't have any credentials. I am the way I like to describe it, because I think it's funny, is that I'm untraditionally educated. so I don't have, like, a traditional education. I graduated high school, I went to college, I went to university in Toronto, I dropped out of both. Technically I didn't drop out of college, I just didn't go back for my second year. So I did the first year, did fine, didn't go back to the second year to complete the certificate because I didn't want to, and because it was stupid and I hated it. I went to a Christian university in Toronto called Tyndale for a BA in English, and My roommate was a nightmare and on a complete opposite schedule to me, which was horrible. And she, well, it wasn't entirely her fault. She was a bitch, but, like, it wasn't her fault that we were on opposite schedules or anything. And then I had an issue with, because it was a Christian college or university, they required that you be there for their services on Sundays, and you had to fill in a certain amount of time. But I was going home on the weekends, so I wasn't going to enough services, or I knew at least, and I like foresaw what was going on. And then there was like a whole bunch of bureaucracy problems where I had submitted my stuff and they lost my stuff, and I was just like, I'm done. Get me out. I'm leaving. Fuck this shit. So I left after 3 weeks. I was like, get me the fuck out of here. This is bullshit. I'm not good at school. I don't do well in school environments. I do well in lectures. Like, I'm good at lectures, but I'm not good at, like... Whatever, anyway. Flunked out of Kingdom Hearts, but to be fair, the curriculum was nonsense. Yo, fair. Only has an education of D&D and League of Legends. Oh, yeah. My poli-sci PhD in interplanar political science. Anyway.
Plays into my core argument as the indictment of the current state of the academy. If it is a credential, then it's a very expensive, time-intensive credential just to be able to have people take you more seriously. And that is...
Well, it's because people don't just take you more seriously. You get the education between point A and point B, right? Presumably, most people, when they are going to school to educate themselves, actually get educated while they are there on that topic. So the reason why a credential makes people take you more seriously is because you've actually studied the topic in a structured manner that is understood and recognized by a, like, so what I'm looking for here, a panel, by your peers, by, like, other people who have studied that field. There's a reason why Jordan Peterson is losing his license, or lost his license, because he lost his appeal, right? So, and then he fled the country, so presumably he doesn't have his license anymore. So it's like, Chesh doesn't like school, but she schools people. So listen, I don't dislike school. I don't do well in school. I think school is great. I think education is great. I think it would be wonderful if schools adjusted themselves or were a little bit more flexible to make going to school applicable for people like me, and people who are different than me, and people who learn differently than I do, and etc., right? You have any idea how long it's been since I've written an essay? A very, very long time. You also learn skills, like written communication skills, for example, and analytical skills that are applicable outside of your specific whatever thing you studied. So if you studied history, right, you might still be able to analyze something on, like, Twitter and be like, oh, I know how to go looking for X, Y, and Z. Chess should have gone to Swedish schools. That would definitely have fit her. Hey, listen, nothing's stopping me from going to Swedish school now, right? Could I go to Swedish school? I'd need to learn the language a little bit, I guess. That could be fun. School is not the only way to learn things. This is true. No, Lord Magicus is 100% correct. And lots of schools also incorporate these things. They tend to specifically incorporate these things with, like, so what I'm looking for, with, like, trades, right? Where you do a trade, and that trade lets you do a placement where you work and learn sort of, like, apprenticeships. More apprenticeships for, like, art, I think would be really good. Art schools could incorporate that a little bit better. Same with music schools could incorporate that a little bit better than I think they do currently. But I don't know, whatever. I don't know how much American schools do that, though. I'm Canadian. I'm speaking from my experience. Should write your essays so they could write... What? Smitty, I don't know what you're trying to say. Listen, if I was going to try to learn the language, I would probably, like, beg Feline and Dapper for assistance. How's the Star Wars campaign coming along? You mean the Star Trek one? Good. I've been trying to figure out the Star Trek Endurance theme song on my Doot Doot Magic Flute. Anyway, Lord Magicus is 100% correct. I should make that my default text message noise. You should make it the noise when you enter a Discord call. All right, I'm gonna hit play.
Kind of like the downfall of what do you do instead of like where did you go? And I don't like that.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
He definitely didn't answer her first question, but now I've forgotten what the second question was.
I wanted to ask you about something you've probably never talked about.
Never.
Yeah, abortion.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you make an argument I never heard, I will give you great credit.
Ooh, great credit from Charlie Kirk. It's worth about as much as my non sequitur show exposure. I think you can just get Dapper to nerd about something, write what he says, and that's basically an essay. Yeah. The feline. Oh, wow. Much wow credit. Ooh. This is an even better idea. I will get Nitro just so I can. That's very funny. Wonderful. Take a drink every time Charlie Cook answers the question. Way to get sober. All right, let's see. Let's see about this abortion nonsense.
Yeah, I wanted to basically try to determine whether you, as you, I believe, believe that abortion in case of rape should be illegal because of the right to life being absolute, or that the right to life is supposed to be weighted against autonomy and freedom, but just the burden of carrying a child of a rapist is simply insufficient to justify abortion. And
yeah, this is a clarifying question to try to get Charlie Kirk nailed down on a topic. Good luck.
If I may, I would use a thought experiment for that.
Is it The Violinist?
A modified version of it.
Yeah, see, I've heard it all, man. So you got it. It's Oxford. You got to go deeper, man. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I got hundreds of hours on this topic. Give me something I haven't heard.
It is deeper. So
that is literally not what they're there for. Stop being a dick.
The question is whether you would, if anyone doesn't know the argument, I'm gonna just spell it out in the modified version. So the Society of Music Lovers has determined that your wife is the only person that can save the life of a famous violinist. They have kidnapped her and their circulatory systems are currently attached. She can detach from the violinist. It will be safe for her, but it will lead to the violinist's death. The question is, would you be willing to force her to stay attached to the violinist for 9 months? And then the next question is, would your answer change if it was 10, 11, 12 months, her whole life, if perhaps she was supposed to be bedridden for the whole time for the sake of, well, seeing what happens if the burden significantly increases? Well,
the second part of the question is irrelevant because it's only for 9 months, so to keep it applicable to the topic.
No, it's valid. It's not it is applicable, and I'll explain to you why. If you're going to say up to 9 months it's not applicable, then the immediate follow-up is, okay, well, how long before it is? Is it never applicable? Sorry, applicable is the wrong word. Is it never okay? Right? So if the burden of the mother is not sufficient, right, which is the argument, right, that's generally Charlie Kirk's position, right, that the burden on the mother for 9 months isn't enough to justify the quote-unquote murder of a child, how long is? Never is a reasonable answer. You could say never, like that's within reason. To say that, no, it doesn't matter how long or at what level this woman suffers, this murder is never justified, right? You could say that. But then you start getting into absurdism. It's like, okay, well, how much suffering should be expected, right? Because it's not a question about necessarily the actual abortion or non-abortion itself. It's a question about what's the principle on which you're basing this argument. And if the person is basing this off of it's the argument ad absurdity to be like, okay, well, how much suffering do you expect women to just put up with? The short answer is all of it. That's the short answer. And then you start to have a question about whether or not that's reasonable. Right? It's so weird that the same people arguing against abortion also push for parental abortions, abandoning a child. Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to this specifically the way this discussion is handled in America and has leaked into the UK. In Canada, this is not really a discussion we're having. Abortion isn't really a topic of debate in Canada. Not that I really see any, like, it popped up in the, when I was reading the Conservative Project 2025, the Canadian version of it. It came up there as retabling, as well as retabling, like, gay marriage. And needless to say, the Conservatives lost a 20-point lead, and almost, like, by 2 seats, almost gave the Liberals a majority. So you can tell how unpopular those things were in Canada. So given today's current geopolitical climate, I have never seen Canada and America be so diametrically opposed on, like, principles and, like, rules of engagement of, like, how they interact with the world and including how they interact with each other. Like, the disparagement, this one is going one way and one is going the other way. Which one is right? That's a discussion for a different day. I mean, I'm Canadian. I think we're going in the career. I'm like, go faster, go harder, more. But that's just my opinion. If we want to have a discussion on that, definitely a discussion worth having, but not today.
At hand, correct? Otherwise, it's a completely irrelevant moral question. Secondly, just to be clear,
no, it's not. It's the entire basis for your point.
You're not kidnapped when you get pregnant. So I don't quite understand the analogy, right?
You are if you're raped. Your body is taken from you. That's so under the context of rape. Yeah, you are. Fucking huh?
Number 3, yes, I mean,
so far his answer has been to let me tell you why I don't have to answer your question.
In this, I always found this analogy outrageous. If you're asking me or my wife would answer, if I have to suffer for 9 months so that another being will assuredly get life, I will do that. That's how.
Okay, but that's your wife who is an individual, and also, we're not asking your wife's opinion. We're asking you to address the analogy to confirm your moral aptitude. And yeah, he's speaking for her. Of course he's speaking for her. This is Charlie Kirk. Women don't get to speak here. Don't you remember what he said during the Q&A? Women are vessels to make babies. They don't get opinions on the matter. Especially when they're brain dead.
She would answer.
May I follow up? Yeah, so the question is whether the right...
He didn't actually say go up, he said follow up, but that's okay.
...of life is absolute.
It is.
Or whether some level of inconvenience can be taken into account, or rather burden, can be taken into account and weighed against it. In this case, I'm asking what if it was, for example, for her whole life? Because, well,
it's not irrelevant. I haven't thought deeply about it, honestly, but it's not relevant because...
You keep saying you've heard this a million times, and now you're saying you haven't thought about it? You haven't thought deeply about the moral implications of how much suffering a woman should have to go through to justify your fucking position? Yeah, we know. We can tell you haven't thought about it very deeply. For a few reasons. One, you hate women, so you don't care to bother to think about them. But I'm married and I have a wife. Yeah, you just condemned your wife to infinite suffering for 9 months, saying that she said she would do it. By infinite suffering, I don't mean time, I mean how bad that suffering could be. So because Charlie Kirk's wife says so, every woman has to agree because women are a homogenous group? Right? This argument would imply that women should be constantly pregnant throughout their entire lives because future lives are important enough to justify present suffering. Yeah, the implication would be that women should be pregnant all the time, regardless of their personal desires and medical situation. Because their lives matter less than the lives that they're bringing, and their lives matter less than the lives that they're bringing into the world. You mean us women are a hive mind? At least I can understand why teenage boys sometimes think women are a hive mind, and it's because a lot of the times women have the same reaction to teenage boys. We all react the same way, so they're all like, they all said the same thing. They all said I smell funny. And Axe doesn't equal a shower. They must be a hive mind. Fuck. Maybe try thinking deeply just once for the heck of it. Maybe just try. Maybe just try one time. You do realize that he just admitted that he's been talking about abortion for ages, has heard everything, has already feels like he's addressed it so he doesn't have to, and then immediately turned around and said, oh, well, I haven't thought deeply about it. Fucking whoops. That's an awkward admission.
Pregnancy's at a 9-month window, so it's not relevant to my abortion view.
But the suffering can be any amount. Just because it's time limited doesn't suddenly mean it's worth less. And you're not engaging with the extent of the actual core of the discussion because you're stupid and you don't even understand what the core of your discussion is because you don't actually believe anything. Charlie Kirk doesn't actually have a belief system. He doesn't have principles, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a few minutes.
Burden is also different of being attached to someone, a violinist. The burden is completely different to carrying a child of a rapist. So I do acknowledge that the burdens are different. Well, the question is whether there is a burden that could be weighed against the right to life. And if in this case, you just believe that
the only burden would be life for the mother.
So you would force your wife.
Okay.
You would be willing.
Hold on a second. No, I would be willing to do
You
whatever.
would be forcing. You just spoke for her. That is force. You'd be willing to what?
Whatever is necessary to not have a human being eliminated. And I guess, is it a human being?
So then you would force your wife. Yes, you would force your wife. Charlie Kirk, if God forbid Charlie Kirk's wife was raped and became impregnated, he would force her to carry that baby. Period. End of sentence. Ladies, how do you feel about being married to a man who's going to force you to do things you don't want to do? Especially things that have major emotional engagement and effects medically on your body, and things that risk your life. Because like it or not, pregnancy risks your life, and the pregnancy rate, the rate of death during pregnancy in America is disgusting. I definitely recommend looking it up right now. Just in an open another tab. Fucking look up the rates of death during pregnancy and childbirth for women in America, and then go ahead and these numbers are accessible and comparable, and you'll notice that it's abysmally high. The death rate is incredibly high, especially for a first world country. Would Charlie Kirk then also raise the baby? Oh, well, he hasn't thought that deeply about it, Feline. Wonder how many kidneys he's donated.
Being in the womb. Yes or no?
Yes.
Then why don't you get the human being rights?
Well, that's what I'm trying to.
That's the fucking problem, dude. One human being doesn't have a right to hit you. One human being doesn't have the right to take your organs that you may or may not need. You don't have you're not forced to give blood every couple of months, Charlie. These are voluntary actions because they require you to choose to do something with your body. Charlie! Honestly, mandatory blood giving might not even really be the worst thing ever. if I was gonna, like with all obviously exceptions made for people with issues, but like, having that as an opt-out instead of an opt-in would probably be a really good idea. Like, have blood giving as like an opt-out scenario with medical exceptions and things like that, and then just have like every month or whatever you're going to go donate blood, you just get a physical and it's just part of like a regular fucking thing. That would probably be a really, really good idea. But you still have it be an opt-out because you can still, choose. You just make it an opt-out program instead of an opt-in program, right? You see what I'm saying? Changes the connotation a little bit. I don't even think that would be really that bad of an idea. I could see arguments for that, right? But, regardless, that's not what we're talking about. Brother, it doesn't matter. Hate Charlie more every time he says something new. Yeah, I know, right? He's the worst. He's so bad. I don't want to kill the fetus, but the fetus doesn't have the right to live off of me. Take it out and let it live on its own. Exactly. Oh, it looks like Feline pulled up. U.S. maternity mortality rate is more than double that of the U.K. and double that of Canada. Oh, you happened to pull it up in the meantime? Wow. 11 per 100,000 births. 21? Good fucking God. That's the worst one over here. South Sudan. Russia is 14. 23 in China. Bro, you're Brother! 3 in Australia. Goddamn, Canada's gotta fucking get on it. To be fair, we do have issues with our medical system right now because it's not getting funded enough, so that makes sense. This could definitely be improved if our medical system was financed better. 72 in Brazil. Mexico is 59. Like, guys, Ukraine is 17. Kazakhstan is 13. Guys! I told you America was really fucking bad. Fucking good God. Yeah, it's really fucking bad. And how bad do you think it looks when you start analyzing which states are driving that number up? What year is this from, by the way? Oh, this is 2025 so far. Yeah, so this number will change, and this number is going to start skyrocketing. Skyrocketing. Anyway.
Trying to just...
No, ask the question, why does that human not get rights, and you do?
Well...
They can have as many rights as they want. They just don't get a right to fucking impose on people's bodily autonomy. Oh, wow. Go figure. Look at that. Maternity mortality rates by state. Texas. Guys. 21 was like, what was that? The median? You've got portions of America that are worse than Africa. Like, half of what South Sudan is the worst, then Chad, then Nigeria. Right? Texas is worse than Central African Republic. The Congo has fucking 547, and Texas has 532. Florida's at 200, California's at 200, New York is at 2. Wyoming is doing great. Good job, Wyoming. Alaska's 12. Listen, Alaska's population is so fucking... Vermont, 1. Guys. Vermont, Wyoming, Maine, Rhode Island, Delaware, North Dakota, and New Hampshire. Maybe you should consider why. Maybe that would be a good idea. Anyway, yeah, you can give this. Does the baby have property rights? Do I claim them on my taxes? Do I get to claim 9 months of dependency? Fetuses already get considered murdered if like somebody kills a pregnant mother, they get killed with two, like a double homicide, right? So they do get some rights. That's already a thing that they get. The problem is you just don't get a right to someone else's body. Period. End of sentence. My
question.
No, answer the question. Why do you get rights and the baby doesn't?
I'm not saying it doesn't.
Yeah, your right to life, eliminate it. That's the first and most fundamental.
All this guy has done is ask you a question. He hasn't actually had a position or made a position as of yet, so he's just making that up.
To the West. Why don't you get that right to the baby?
Well, I'm not saying I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm asking whether you would force your wife.
Well, no, hold on a second. Do you, very fundamentally, do you believe?
See, now he has to ask. So after he imposed this straw man onto this person 2 to 3 times, then it's like, no, I didn't. I didn't say anything like this. I'm here to ask you questions.
Every human being has a right to life, regardless how small you are.
His answer was yes, by the way. He would force his wife.
Level of development that you are on.
I do believe that every person does have a right to life. Yes.
You do not believe that?
I do.
Okay, then we agree. Abortion should be eliminated and outlawed.
And you would force
No! Charlie. No! Because when you get a right to life, everyone gets it, including the mother. What you're advocating for isn't the right to life for a fetus. What you're arguing is that women do not have the same right to life that the baby does. That's what you're actually saying. That's what you're actually arguing. And we know that this is accurate because of what you said when asked about the Georgia woman who is brain dead. Her life did not matter and does not matter. Your wife's life does not take priority over that of the fetus, which means you're not actually advocating for the rights of the fetus. You're actually advocating for lessening the rights of women.
your mother, you force your wife to stay with a violinist.
Again, you are gruesomely describing a universal truth that we will protect life no matter how small.
Sorry that the life is sticky and gruesome sometimes. If you want to pretend that it's not gruesome, then you're selling something. Pregnancy is a gruesome thing. It generally causes PTSD in a lot of women. That goes generally untreated. Postpartum depression exists for a reason. The hormone imbalances. The fact that you're risking your life, and a lot of times, nobody gives a shit. He's trying to do a Shapiro, but he's not sharp enough for it. Man, that's a burn if I ever heard one. Holy shit.
Or level of development in the environment or the degree of dependency. And again, I will throw it back to you, because it's very easy to use this analogy to make it seem like I'm unreasonable. But you're actually the unreasonable one.
You are unreasonable, Charlie. You would force your wife to carry a rape baby.
Saying that I will eliminate the human being just because, for what reason? There is no excuse for murder, period. We believe that in the West.
That is definitionally the case. Not all killing is murder, Charlie. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, dipshits out there watching this in the future, potentially. Not all killing is murder. Murder is unjustified by definition. If saving the mother, which something Charlie just said was acceptable, is it still murder? No, because it's been justified.
Correct? Now, you want to make the self-defense argument, we can go back there. I've heard every argument. I've heard that the baby's a parasite. I've heard the baby's an invader. I've heard the baby that is, currently taking the nutrients. None of them are morally applicable to the actual circumstance of gestation. Period.
Why not? I mean, if you're going to say that they aren't, why? That's the way you build an argument, right? You explain why. You don't just make a statement and a claim. You actually go on and like cite sources and explain why and how and, you know, build an argument. You'll notice that I haven't called the fetus a baby, or because most of the time he's actually not even talking about a fetus. He just wants to talk all about all of it as if it's basically a fully grown person, which I don't agree with. I just don't think there's any point in arguing about it, right? A U.S. Republican Congress woman was refused treatment for her ectopic pregnancy because of a Republican abortion ban. How does that protect life or well-being? It doesn't. It's about control. A fetus is brutal on a body. Correct. Yes. Currently, there is no other treatment for ectopic pregnancies other than abortion. Other treatments are at best experimental. Most other treatments would likely be considered abortion anyway. Right? Like, what are you gonna do? like it's a conglomerate of not infeasible cells. You can't make it feasible, right? I mean, unless that is one of the treatments of being like, hey, this is, or like, because the ectopic pregnancy is on the outside of the uterus, right? So I feel like that I wonder if Charlie Kirk knows what a uterus actually looks like. Like, you think it's just like he thinks it's like the doodle that you see in like a grade 8 fucking textbook that's like the fucking like hooked down in the ovaries with like the fucking triangle? Like, do you think he thinks it looks like that? I bet you he does. And not just kind of like an egg sac, which is kind of more what it looks like.
A human being has a right to life. You can check your notes again if you'd like, but every human being has a right to life. Yes or no?
Wow, dude. He's such a dick.
It's what built the West.
Well, it's what I'm asking. It's the only thing I wanted to ask.
Got it. You got your answer. No, I understand. What you are doing is a rhetorical trap. I've answered it completely, which is this. I stand for the abolition
It's not a rhetorical trap, Charlie. It is an earnest question about your belief system, of which is the foundation of your argument. You just don't like that it actually shakes and makes your foundation for your argument look fucking ridiculous. Because it is, and exposes it for what it is.
abortion in all circumstances against life of the mother, because life matters. Every human being, I believe, is made in the image of the divine.
Unless you're a woman, because you don't get a choice. You have to risk your life, because your life is worth less than the potential life you could bring into the world. So much so that Charlie is willing to keep you alive, not only force you while you're alive, but keep your body alive after death. At the suffering of every relationship you have. Your body belongs to the state. Because that's not government overreach at all.
Sacred is unique. And if we get away from this principle as we have, we not only have moral degradation, we not only have the collapsing society.
I would like to point out that Charlie's never actually justified a fetus being a human, by the way. He just makes that statement.
Around us, but it's bad for that being itself. That being itself is unique. That being has rights. And who are we to say, just because we're older, that we get to murder it? Thank you.
Like, this guy's not walking away. Like, he shouldn't. He should just stand there, because Charlie is making it seem like he's the one who gets to control the situation, that he gets to just kick people off, and it's like,
Thank you.
He shouldn't have left. He should have said, like, okay, so can you answer my question then now? Too bad.
I likewise have an abortion-related question. So the Constitution refers to citizens and persons, but it does not explicitly define when life begins. In your view, who should define this question when we have a near split of liberals and conservatives in our country? Specifically, Alabama and Delaware have defined the start of life differently. Alabama treats the question as life beginning at conception. Since you can't kill a person, you're not permitted to get an abortion. Whereas Delaware defines the start of life at the time when the fetus is viable outside of the mother. Therefore, Delaware permits abortion up until viability at about 24 to 26 weeks. Since it's not in the Constitution...
Honestly, Delaware does seem like the reasonable compromise. A lot of, like, the quote-unquote heartbeat bills are so early that you don't know you're pregnant in a lot of cases until after the window of abortion is open. Moral degradation. Yeah, I just skipped over his moral degradation nonsense because we've talked about it before and it is complete fucking nonsense.
Who should make a countrywide decision when liberals and conservatives have answered this question differently?
It's a good question. Right now, the answer, the Supreme Court has said, the localist jurisdiction possible. And then we'll work our way up from there. We aim to abolish...
But she's asking your fucking opinion, Charlie. Charlie, she's asking you to have an opinion and make an argument as to who you think.
Abolish abortion the same way we aim to abolish slavery in the 1860s.
Meaning that...
And they are moral equivalents. In fact, one is arguably worse.
What? You think... Oh my god, did he actually just out loud say that abortion rights are moral equivalents to slavery? Why? Because you're enslaving women against their will to sacrifice their bodies? Is that why? Surely that would be too on the nose. The Supreme Court, you're not in the USA. One is arguably worse. What? Has anybody else covered this? Am I the only one who's talked about this insane shit? Alright, I'm gonna put it back a little bit.
Who should make a countrywide decision when liberals and conservatives have answered this question differently?
It's a good question. Right now, the answer, the Supreme Court has said, the localist jurisdiction possible.
So then why would overturning it be something valuable? Right, the localist jurisdiction possible was the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Right? Not the instating of abortion laws. Right? It was the removal of rights, not the addition of rights. And then those rights would then be decided and put off to the most local level the homeowners association. Whether like every mayor in every city has to make a decision on this? Is that where we're at? So yeah, and if Eline's right, they already had it decided and then it was overturned. So he's still not answering the question.
And then we'll work our way up from there. We aim to abolish abortion the same way we aim to abolish slavery in the 1860s.
Meaning that...
And they are moral equivalents. In fact, one is arguably worse.
So the states should decide.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, right now, the local jurisdiction. You can get down to the county level.
She's not asking who is currently making the decision, Charlie. She's asking who do you believe should make a decision on a countrywide level. And his answer is a bunch of fucking Republicans. That's his answer, because he's like, no, we want to do this and have this decided in this direction, and we're pushing for this abolition. Right? So he's saying that a bunch of Republicans who have vibes about it, not professionals, not scientists, right-wing politicians that have an agenda, that's his answer. Admittedly, he's not being very clear about his answer, but that is ultimately the answer he's giving.
We have county hospitals that have issues on this. We have jurisdictions. So the most local, the better. That will de-radicalize the position and give us space to make the moral argument.
So you admit that the position is radical. And he's just trying to normalize it, knowing that his position is radical to begin with.
Which I continue to be on a quest to do so.
And you would therefore respect Delaware's position on this matter?
Well, I mean, yes, the states have sovereignty to do that for the time being. But of course, we are going to push for a...
For the time being, the states have the sovereignty to do that for the time being. Why the overturning of Roe v. Wade then? Because because they don't actually because it's all wrapped in rhetoric. If he actually believed that the line of power is through the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court's original decision should have stood on Roe v. Wade regardless. Well, that wasn't ominous. Yeah, definitely not ominous at all.
National vote when we win the people's minds. We are in my position on abortion is unpopular in my country. I don't. I want to scare you guys too much. I am in the vast minority of my own political party on this issue. Proudly. Because I'm morally correct. I'm on the right side of history.
Except that you can't actually articulate how or why you are morally correct or on the right side of history. You are, in fact, fallacious and can't even handle a singular question about the foundation of your belief. And the foundation of your belief is built on religious doctrine. Religious doctrine that has been losing power for a long period of time in other countries. And most societies of the first world are based on secularism, including America, the separation of church and state. Being morally correct, by the way, doesn't give you carte blanche to be an asshole. Your self-righteous indignation is not convincing. So then turning to try to make and build something like Turning Point USA, which he has now admitted, is a right-wing extremist organization designed to shape and frame and push his agenda and his belief system into the minds of young people to shift the position of the country to whatever Charlie Kirk believes he is correct about. And actually, no, his position is wrong according to scripture. Correct. Also that. Maybe leave decisions to experts. Yeah, oh, maybe. No, we can't do that. Not in America. We're too proud of our ignorance.
All the chips are down, and when all the biology is settled, it will be very simple and very clear that we have made
all the biology is settled, said the person who doesn't know anything about biology, because only somebody who doesn't know dick shit about biology would ever say something so fucking stupid. Guys, all of biology will be settled. What the fuck are you talking about? Biology is super complicated on this. Biology is super complicated, period. All the biology will be settled. Yeah. Send me that screenshot. Send it to me. Gimme. I need another laugh. Oh, wait. I need to piss anyway. All the biology will be settled. If I was going to be charitable, I would say he means all of the biology of like when a life begins. But again, that's equally as absurd because a lot of life is very, very different. So for example, mushrooms. Never let these people know mushrooms exist. All right, so this is the gender spectrum. Conception, birth, and puberty. So chromosomes, genes, hormones, internal and external sex organs, secondary sex characteristics such as breasts or facial hair. Right? So here, if you look, factors that determine sex, you'll notice 46XX, right? Goes to absence of SRY gene, or SRY gene may be present. Then you have typical biological female internal and external genital structures, but then it can go to slight variations from typical female, such as elevated levels of male hormones, because if you follow backwards, you get genitals can be modified to look more typically female, and enlarged clitoris, fused labia, short vagina, normal ovaries, uterus, and cervix, which you're getting from elevated levels of male hormones and the CYP2, I think that says 1A2, but I'm not 100% sure, gene mutation. Or from CYP2 1A2 gene mutation, which is coming from X46XY. It's almost like there's variation or something. I don't know, man. Go fucking figure. You can see as well if you follow it backwards, right? You can follow it back through... Where did I go? Where did I start from? Where was I? I followed this one down to here. And then up this way to congenial and adrenal hyperplastia, or yeah, fucking I love that there's an and or androgen insensitivity syndrome, or AIS. It's almost like all of this is complicated, and you're not gonna have. You have to be incredibly, bafflingly ignorant about biology to think that all the biology is settled on any topic in biology. It's complicated. There is no line between the slight variation box at the bottom and the genitals can be modified box. Let's see. Where? Whatever. Anyway, there's a lot. It's complicated. It's definitely too complicated for somebody like Charlie Kirk. And things like this, are why you want to listen to professionals and people who are educated, who have degrees in these fields. It doesn't mean that they're going to be inherently right, but it's why you should at least take them seriously when they are trying to discuss these things. Again, and there are different people in these fields that have different opinions. And it's up to them to be debating this shit, not fucking Charlie Kirk or me.
Every excuse in the book to try to eliminate life smaller than us for simply inconveniences. So yes, right now we respect Delaware.
Yes, women's life being put at risk is simply an inconvenience. This is what I mean. Women's rights don't matter. Women suffering is simply an inconvenience. Women dying is simply an inconvenience. Period. That's how it's framed. But it's not like that, is it? Would you want to be treated that way? That your life is simply like, is to be sacrificed because it's considered an inconvenience to not? 1 = 1 is too complicated for him. Yeah.
We respect Michigan, respect all of that. But we have all intents to...
No, you don't. No, you don't at all. If you did, you wouldn't have gone out of your way to overturn Roe v. Wade, and if you did, you wouldn't be going out of your way to manipulate people, which you admitted to pushing your political agenda to control women. Because you definitively don't respect women.
March every way through the institutions, from the cultural places of power and eventually political, to abolish abortion in America.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, if he fucking respected it, he would leave it the fuck alone.
Hey, Charlie. So I wanted to return to a comment you made earlier about the generation of lost boys. You likened them to the Peter Pan movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about Red Pill Media as being a large influence, and I wanted to define that. It's a reference to the Matrix, in which a lot of these media heads
I'm familiar with that.
talk about unplugging yourself, and it's about waking up to the realization that
Red Pill is woke? I don't know if anybody's ever made that connection before.
there is an active attack on masculinity, that men's rights need to be, that men are being oppressed in a way, and that men's rights need to be advocated for.
I want to point out how much I really love the visual contrast going on right now. Charlie Kirk trying to stand as upright as he can, head tilted up, looking down at the person he's talking to, like head tilted upwards, arms crossed, closed off, legs pointed together. This guy is standing like you can see his knees bent, relaxed at an angle, wearing fucking track pants and slippers, and just a chill t-shirt. And he's like his shoulders are down, his hand is open, like, fucking look at this man. This dude's chill. I love this contrast. Absolutely adore that. Hold on. Let me just make this large. Like, this is screenshot worthy. This is, like, definitively, like... I'm grabbing this screenshot because, like, look at this. That's great. I'm just putting it in the Discord real quick. Alright, there we go. Alright, let's the guy go.
And many people have attributed the Red Pill Media to rise in this almost generation of lost boys. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on kind of like, do you see this generation of lost boys as a failure of, like, say, masculinity, or are there potential other factors, economic, social factors, such as, the death of the American dream, increasing costs of living in America, increased costs of education? Are there any other reasons as to why this generation of lost boys might exist, or do you basically attribute it to
I acknowledge all of that.
I want to note a contrast here between the difference between Oxford and Cambridge. Cambridge was a lot more confrontational about asking him questions that were undermining to his position. Oxford is asking questions that are more about nuance and trying to understand what Charlie Kirk's actual position is. He's still failing, but he is not getting rolled nearly as hard at Oxford.
Of course. One of them, it's a very good faith question, and thank you. In America, we made a stupid decision in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s to shut down our factories in the middle part of the country and basically disenfranchise and deindustrialize tens of millions of working class men and tell them to go move to the cities and learn to code. I said this in the previous Q&A, but I can again, which is that men, a family...
That's a little bit... He's not entirely wrong, but it's a little bit simplified to the point that it's kind of missing the nuance for sure, but...
used to be able to be supported on a single income of 35 weeks of labor a year. Now it takes upwards of 60 weeks of labor a year. However, given all the economic and social and all those factors, the largest of all of them is the cultural and the educational that has infantilized men and hyper-feminized them in the messaging, in the outreach, and in the treatment. And so I can give you...
I have a question. about this entire concept of men being feminized and women being more masculine in a society being wrong, because you need to have feminine and masculine things happening. Why is it a problem which gender is doing which thing, as long as you've gotten a balance between each one? So if men are behaving more effeminate, classically feminine, and women are behaving more masculine, have you not then still equalized the amount of feminine and the amount of masculine within the society as a whole? And if the problem is as a disbalance, are you not then actually describing that there is in fact a balance that is being maintained? It's just whoever is doing the job is still getting done? So what's the problem? Not that I think this is valid, I'm simply pointing out an inconsistency inside of his own argument. I don't think men being more feminine, women being more masculine is meaningless dribble in this scenario. Like what defines any of these things is basically just social economics and like social evolution, because believe it or not, societies evolve and change over time. A man who can cook is basically a woman. See, every professional cook ever. Listen. It's feminine until it becomes a career and you can make money at it. Then it's a man's job. Hey, Jack, what's going on? Hyper-feminized men? Whatever the fuck that means. I don't know. People used to say that Justin Bieber was, like, hyper-feminized. Huh? We live in a society! I don't know.
Specific examples,
in what way has the education system infantilized men?
I mean, every possible way, from the hypermedication of young men, from...
Hypermedicate in every way. Hypermedication. What? There's hypermedication happening as part of the school curriculum? I would love a citation for that one. What the fuck are you talking about? Huh?
In the core curriculum in America, we learn about toxic masculinity from ages 8 in public schools in California and in New York. We never talk about toxic femininity. Do you agree that there's toxic femininity as well?
I mean, I think it's an unfair double standard.
Why?
Hey, good answer. Good answer. We never talk about toxic femininity. Yes, we do. We talk about that kind of shit all the time. What are you talking about? Also, like, it depends on how you're framing it. If you're framing it as if toxic femininity exists in the same way that toxic masculinity exists, that's absolutely nonsense, because women don't have that kind of power. That's called the patriarchy. And a lot of toxic feminine traits come from patriarchy, not matriarchy. We talk about Karens all the time. Yeah, exactly. It's not like you can't be toxic and be a woman. It's, again, this misnomer of toxic masculinity means being masculine is toxic, and that's not what we're talking about. That's not what it means.
How can femininity not be toxic if masculinity can?
I'm not saying they can't be.
Do we teach kids about toxic femininity in our schools? No, tell me yes or no.
I mean, I think that they come from two very different places. I think toxic masculinity comes from a level of misogyny, where I think toxic femininity often comes from a reaction to a misogynistic system, which fundamentally...
So I think we'd have to define... I don't entirely disagree with him, but I think we have to define our terms. And I think that there's a little bit of a problem with this conversation because we haven't defined what is toxic femininity. Like, what is Charlie Kirk referring to, right?
Fundamentally oppresses and systematically oppresses women. And I'm not saying that toxic femininity is a good thing, but I'm saying it's a much more understood and valid reaction to a system of oppression versus toxic masculinity, which oppresses.
That's a good answer. That's a really good answer. I don't think Charlie's going to be able to handle it.
Okay. So even if I grant you that, Even if I grant you that, as if he didn't just make a really good point. That, are they teaching toxic, is that term ever been used in a school that you know of?
What term?
Toxic femininity?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's weird. So only one sex gets criticized and called toxic.
Bro, no! Toxic masculinity affects women too, dude. There are mothers that go around and treat their sons like shit and tell them to rub some dirt in it. Toxic masculinity doesn't mean only fucking men are doing it, you fucking blithering fool! Oh my god! Jesus Christ, it's not something that only men do. It's a patriarchal society issue, not a gender versus gender issue. God, he's too stupid. He's too stupid for this conversation. He's too simple-minded to understand the concept that he's even trying to talk about in the first place. See, Smitty gets it. Toxic masculinity is not a criticism of males and masculinity. Correct! Thank you! It's a specific subset of behavior that is toxic, based in patriarchy. Based in a patriarchal society. Good God. Toxic masculinity is bad for men. Because it means men get treated poorly. Their mental health doesn't get treated well. They get ignored. They get silenced about things like abuse. That's toxic masculinity. If you want to talk about infantilizing, we're talking about that anger is not considered an emotion that needs to be learned and understood and dealt with the same way any other emotion is. Or men are forced to feel only anger, and that's it. And yes, toxic masculinity is bad for women. Yeah, of course. Toxic masculinity leads to things like incels. Absolutely. With or without patriarchy, there would be toxic masculinity. I do not think that you get toxic masculinity to the degree that it is in America without a patriarchy. I think the issues might still exist, but for them to be at the level of an issue that they are specifically in America, I do not think you get there without patriarchal intervention. And that's part of what perpetuates the problem. People like Charlie put it into the context of competition between men and women. Yeah, toxic masculinity has nothing to do with individual men and has nothing to do with being a man. You're not engaging in toxic masculinity just because you're a man. It's not toxic to be a man. That's not what any of this says, and anybody framing it in a way as if it is misrepresenting what we're talking about.
Maybe that creates a backlash.
Well, because one is creating a system of oppression.
No, that's your interpretation. No, you can make every excuse under the book that you'd like.
No, you just said that if you granted him that. So that means you're granting him that definition, where one is a reaction to oppression and the other one is oppressing. So pick a lane. 1 second. Uno momento, I need more tea. Oh, I need a fresh tea. Okay, so here's the problem, right? With when it comes to Charlie Kirk in particular. Just by this interaction alone, we can determine that one of two things is true. Either Charlie Kirk is incompetent or he's dishonest. Or some mix of the two, somewhere in there. So which one is it? What's it going to be? Is it going to be that he's incompetent and he doesn't understand the topic in which he is discussing and which he is engaging, such as he doesn't know what toxic masculinity actually is, and when it is being discussed, he goes out of his way to detract and strawman and misrepresent it? Because he has an agenda, and therefore he is dishonest? Do you think that if you described toxic masculinity to him, that he would agree that it's problematic? If I turned around and said men's mental health isn't taken fairly, that men are not treated equally in the court system during divorce, or like they're treated disproportionately unfairly in divorce court and in custody battles, and are not expected to do well with children, and that men are not... Society does not enable men to succeed in emotional maturity. Do you think he would agree with me if you were to frame it that men aren't treated fairly by society? I think that men aren't treated fairly by society. I think it very much expresses itself in America in particular. Do you think it's fair that men get treated by women as threats? Often? Often women treat men as if they are a threat to them? Is that fair? No. Is that women's fault? Is it? Charlie is what happens when you are emotionally devoid of any maturity. Is it fair for women to want to be defensive and cautious around men on dating apps? And is it fair that men disproportionately lash out at women not willing to put themselves at risk? Because those men are being viewed as feel that they're being viewed as a potential predator? It's almost like it's complicated and nuanced, and if we can't actually acknowledge that there is a problem, we're never going to be able to do anything about it. Is it a side effect of the patriarchy? Is it a side effect of the patriarchy? Is it because women have been societally oppressed for an incredibly long period of time? And so when women put down a boundary, men feel like they're being attacked? Or anytime we talk about women's struggles, it has to be, but what about men though? And the only time we can talk about men's issues is in response as a deflection to overspeak women talking about women's issues that sometimes involve men? Or is that something that is the cause of toxic masculinity, where men don't feel like there is any other space that they can talk about these things? And so they react and respond in a space where they think that they can. Or in a space where they think they can shout somebody else down, thus justifying their anger at women in general because women don't care to listen to them. Women can't help men if men can't help themselves. Because that's one of the things, right? That's one of the issues of this ongoing patriarchal societal oppression that women have faced. That women are expected to carry the emotional burden for men. That's toxic masculinity. It's bad for the women and it's bad for the men, because now the men are set up for failure and are not able to emotionally mature and they're catered to and they are infantilized to be treated and to act like children, while at the same time these men are now expecting women to be their mom. It makes for a very unhealthy conversation. And when you have people like Charlie Kirk and Andrew Tate and the manosphere weaponizing that and taking advantage of it and creating these cult-like incel followings that run around and assault and attack women, men are disproportionately expected to, statistically, to be like mass shooters, for example. Because it's not about individuals, right? It's about society at large. And not everybody's got the spoons to have the conversation. Not everybody's got the spoons to deal with the other, quote-unquote, other side. And the fact that it's already framed as one versus the other. Well, men have done this. Well, women have done this. So what? Can women not be serial killers? No, they can. Absolutely. Absolutely, a woman can be a serial killer. Can women be insensitive towards men? Yes, absolutely they can. Can men be insensitive towards women? Yes. It's not a man versus women thing. And framing that way just feeds into the problem. When you frame it as society isn't good at having this conversation because men's emotional attachments and men's issues get ignored by everybody and society at large, that's when you start being able to deal with the issue. And don't be surprised that women are going to laugh you out of the room if you bring up, if you go into a women's space where women are talking about their issues and you expect them to cater to you as a man and their issues, don't be surprised that you get laughed at and mocked and laughed out of the room. Because they're not there for you, and they're not going to carry your emotional burden. So build a space. Humans can be insensitive towards goblins? Yes. Yes, they can. It's one of those things that that is incredibly complicated for humans, although it is incredibly simple. It's not even that hard to fix. Because, like, it's absolutely absurd for men to try to play the oppressive Olympics. It's absurd on its face. But that doesn't mean men don't have issues. And that doesn't mean men don't have things in which they are oppressed about. Right? It's not to discredit a man's experience. It's to put a man's experience into perspective. And a women's experience into a perspective. And putting it into a perspective that the other gender can understand. Right? Because it's not an us versus us. It's not women versus men. It is a society has a problem.
Only one chromosome set gets criticized, called that they're terrible and awful, and that women basically...
Nope, that's not true. Because there's more than two, as we saw. As Charlie Kirk unironically says, as he treats trans women as if they're all predators. So no, incorrect. By the way, do you really want to talk about how women are told that they're awful if they're not getting married, that they're awful if they're not getting pregnant, that they're awful and they're bad mothers if they don't know how to cook or clean properly, or that they're awful for not being able to cook, clean, take care of the kids, go to work, and cater to their husband's emotional needs? Again, if Charlie wants to play Oppression Olympics, it's a joke. It's an absolute fucking guffaw.
Need to be like go into the corporate world with no reservation, and young men see this pattern in the West and in our country from the authors, from the curriculum, from the music, from the movies, and we see, and of course, again, in the educational system proper, we have seen the infantilization of the young male. And so it's just, again, we know the data. You did agree to.
Maybe young men should stop acting like fucking children. Guy in the background is bored. This guy's fucking face palming. This dude's like, what the fuck? Dude, I don't blame you, man. The most anti-trans women thing appears to be foolish men like Charlie being afraid of men, or it seems to stem from that. He's not afraid of men. He's afraid of women with an attitude that generally doesn't come with women. He's afraid of women behaving like men. That's what he's afraid of. Trans women bring an incredible voice to the conversation that a lot of men like Charlie can't handle. And it's fantastic. More. Trans women are great when it comes to that. It's one of my favorite things. Because men like Charlie just get absolutely bodied. A lot of anti-LGBTQ stuff, I think, stems down to a hatred of women and an oppressive ideology about women specifically, but not solely. I don't think it's only that thing. I just think a lot of it stems from that. So, like, homophobia comes from not wanting feminized men because they're afraid of women, right? They don't like women, a hatred of women, right? There's barely any issues about trans women. Sorry, barely any issues about trans men, women who become men, because they don't view that as a threat, because they think that women are weaker. So a trans woman is now somebody who is a woman who is equally as powerful as a man, and they're afraid of that. Normally you'd have to pay to get absolutely bodied by a trans woman. Again, I don't think this is the only thing. I just think it is a large part of the issues on a whole. It's not the only one. Anyway. Repressive sexuality is also like a whole conversation.
That young men are checking out completely, but we're actually living under a hyper-feminist West that is toxic. What does that mean? Speech police, feelings first, emotion over reason.
Charlie, that's you! Your whole vibe is murder is wrong because it feels bad, but like fucking America goes to war all the time. Killing is fine under the right circumstances. That's your position. But the reason that you have is entirely emotional based, and it's incredibly ignorant and emotionally charged to try to pretend that emotion and logic are different things. They aren't. They're incredibly interconnected. The way you process information has a lot to do with your emotional state and your level of emotional maturity. We know that Charlie is not emotionally mature enough to deal with most of these conversations. That's why he's dismissive and deflecting, and why he doesn't answer questions clearly. Because he's emotionally immature. As a trans woman, I approve this message. Human rights are human rights. Trans people are humans. I salute thee. Feelings first, bro. Look in the fucking mirror. Charlie is only against killing American children, not Palestinian children. Actually, scratch that. Only against killing American fetuses. Yeah, he completely justified the killing of children in Palestine. So he doesn't actually care. It's really convenient that the only thing that Charlie wants to have his, like, moral high ground where killing is so wrong, that murder is so wrong, is only for something that can't speak for itself. You're not gonna ask the fucking clump of cells its fucking opinion. If that clump of cells had a fucking opinion, and that opinion disagreed with Charlie, he wouldn't give a fucking shit. He already says he doesn't care about women being killed. It's not considered murder when it happens to a woman. Is a fetus gonna be charged? Here we go. Let's do this. If a woman dies during pregnancy because of a an issue to do with the pregnancy, does the man get charged with murder for impregnating her? If the child survives, yeah, that was the next one I was going to go on, Feline. If the child survives, do they get charged with murder? Does the husband have to pay restitution on behalf of the child because he's responsible for the child? The only one left responsible for the child if the child doesn't survive? No, that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? That would be very ridiculous. That would be absurd, even.
Community over individualism. We're seeing this. And by the way, is it working? Is the West stronger?
Community over individualism. Yeah, that's definitely America right now. America isn't incredibly individualistic as an ideology, as a society, right? No, no, definitely not. I've seen people have this discussion about Canada, right? And there's a whole lot of like Americanized ideology that's kind of talked about because like Americans want to fucking have opinions about Canadian politics. Thanks, Jordan Peterson. About individual rights versus societal expectations. And the courts in Canada, our Supreme Courts, have already ruled that your personal rights might be circumvented by the safety of society on a whole, as an individual. That's long been decided. So people are like, oh my god, this bill is gonna let the police get a hold of my mail, and the Supreme Court and most of Canada's like, yeah, as long as it goes through due process to get a warrant to look at your mail, yeah. Because guess what? Canada's not as individualistic of a society as America is. We don't have that kind of ideology. If Charlie wants community and society over the individual, then vaccines and masking and distancing during the pandemic should have been paramount. The delay on that made that really good. Good point. Yeah, good point.
Speech police, feelings first, emotion over reason, community over individualism. We're seeing this, and by the way, is it...
No, he's saying community over individualism is a bad thing. He's saying caring about men's emotional health is a bad thing. He's saying that being polite and considerate and not being racist is just speech police, and that is unreasonable. He thinks these things are bad, which completely flies in the face of his entire reasoning for disallowing abortion, by the way, which is, the Bible. I don't like masks is a feeling over reason, yes. Over logic, quote unquote. You mean I can't be the village idiot and get elected to public office in Canada? Well, I'm not saying it's impossible. We came close. We came close because the propaganda against Trudeau was working, or did work. That's slowly dying down, so that's nice to see. Not that I'm saying Trudeau is perfect, by the way.
Working. Is the West stronger as it's become more feminine in the last 30 years? No. In fact, our morale...
By what metric, by the way? He keeps saying that the West, quote unquote, and when he says the West, he just means America. That America is becoming more feminism. More feminist. But if he's saying the West is becoming less strong because of feminism, but then only cites the decline of America, Canada is in a great position. Canada's doing incredibly well, thriving even. In fact, Canada was considered to have been thriving by economic standards during the 2008 crash and during COVID. That didn't mean it wasn't hard, and that didn't mean that there weren't people in Canada that suffered and that it wasn't economically difficult for a lot of people. It just means, comparatively, Canada did incredibly well. Women being allowed to work increases your workforce. Women being allowed to make money increases your economy. If you remove 50% of your workforce tomorrow, your economy would collapse. Although, to be fair, your economy's already collapsing, so I don't know what difference it would make at this point. It wasn't female leftists closing down factories in the Rust Belt. That's what he brought up earlier, right? They always flip-flop on this. They're pro-community when it's preserving patriarchy, then they go pro-individualism when capitalism exploits everyone. Yeah, good point. But how will we get trillionaires if we can't oppress people? That's the funny thing. You don't. Oh God. How many? I'm curious. All right, hold on. Now, I want to look something up. Wait a second. I want to look up like how many where are billionaires from? Where are the world's richest people from? Because I'm willing to bet they disproportionately are 10 richest people in the world. All right. And where so I want to know where they're from, as in where they made their money. So we've got Elon Musk. Okay, so he made his money in America. Oh, get out of here. In America, right? Now, admittedly, he is from South Africa, but he's made his money in America. We got Elon Musk. I get it. Mark Zuckerberg. America. Okay, that's 2 Americans. That's the first 2. Oh, sorry. Let's actually get their net worth. Okay, so $229 billion. So write that down. Write that down. Write that down. 229 bill. That's Mark Zuckerberg. Elon was listed at 379 billion, which is over $100 billion more. So that's 2. He's 53. Damn. Jeff Bezos, American, 226 billion. And so here's the thing. This is gonna disproportionately affect Americans, specifically because of that individuality, right? We're not looking at the big oil tycoons because the big oil tycoons' money is split between its company. Not the same as an individual's net worth, right? How much of those 379 billion was stolen through Doge? I don't know when was this posted. As of what year? Ugh, his face. Updated June of 2025. So, good question. You'd have to do an investigation into Doge to find out. So that's 3 Americans in the top 10. Larry Ellison, co-founder, CEO of Oracle. That's 191. I believe, residence, United States. $191 billion. That's 4 Americans. Bill Gates, American, 175. Admittedly, Bill Gates could probably top this list had he wanted to, but he simply did not want to. He is more of a philanthropist, for example. So that's 5 Americans in the top 5, or in the top 10. Steve Ballmer, United States, that's 6. That's 159. That's 6 out of 10. Warren Buffett, 7. Larry Page, 155. That's 8. Is one single one of these going to be not an American? One from France! Bernard! We got one from France! 152 billion. One from France! And what's 10? Sergey Brin from the United States. That's the fucking Google guy. I always forget this guy's name. 149 billion. One of them is from France. 9 out of 10 of the world's richest people are from America and in America. Holy shit. So let's get a calculator out and see what the total is here. 139 from Musk plus 229 from Zuckerberg plus 226 plus from Larry Ellison plus 192 from Bill Gates plus 175 from Steve Ballmer plus 159 from Buffett plus 158 from Larry Page plus 100. That's Larry Page. We're skipping the France guy. Skip the guy from France because he's not American. Plus 152. No, sorry, not 152. 149. 149. For a total of $1,667 billion. Did I get something wrong? Let's go to the top. I'm gonna key all these in. 139. Sorry, 379 plus 229 plus 226 plus 191 plus 175 plus 159 plus 158 plus 155 skip the France guy plus 146 $1,818 billion. $1,818 billion is owned by individuals in America. Individuals. Brother. And not a single one of them was like fucking a woman, because of course not. That's insanity. That's insanity.
It's weaker, we're more suicidal, our fertility rates are down. We have lost the balance. We've lost the yin and the yang between.
You really think that cutting off LGBTQ plus rights and LGBTQ plus helplines is going to cause less suicides? You think taking medical care away from women is going to cause less suicides? Do you think that maybe just creating some men's help and health organizations for like mental stability and solving the economic problems might be your solution? Yin and yang, not yin and yang. Well, yeah, there's that too.
Between the male and the female. We lost what worked, and we have hyper-platformed your own prime minister, Boris Johnson, when he was talking at a summit.
What did he say? A hyper what?
We have hyper-platformed your own prime minister.
Hyper platform? What the fuck? He's just using words that don't mean anything.
Boris Johnson, when he was talking at a summit, said we need to actually make things more feminine. Could you imagine if he said we need to make things more masculine? How does that sound to a dock worker in Brighton or someone in Essex? We need to make things more feminine? No. Instead,
It only sounds bad if you believe that feminism is wrong, or believe that being feminine is inherently a bad thing. So Charlie Kirk believes that being feminine is a bad thing, quote unquote. As Keir Starmer is now the Prime Minister, Charlie. Yeah. And we have reached our goal. Yahoo! So let's swap on over. $1.8 trillion. Yes, $1.8 trillion is owned by 9 people in America. All right, let's see our numbers here. Yahoo! What do we got? We got okay, so these are 200. So I'm gonna count them. Okay, so but they are also like colored as if they I don't know how to read this. I don't know how to count this. Let's call it 20. Let's call it 20 and 10. That'll work. So 20, 40, 50, 2, 4. So we'll call that what did I say? 54? Yeah, 54. We'll call it 54. That works. So that will be. Excuse me. Let me move my knife. 30. Actually, it's not 30 anymore because one of these is now empty. So that would be 29. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. Oh, it's the ghost pepper one. Oh, no. Haha. I'm in danger. It's okay. We counted it that way, in a way that makes sense. All right. Ghost pepper. As you may be aware, it has this crying face on it. Very sad. Very unfortunate. This is gonna give me hiccups. Ouch! This one hurts the back of my throat, Jesus Christ. Holy Jesus Christ. Alright, let me go ahead and answer Michael. Michael said... Sorry, give me 1 second. I gotta clean my glasses off. I'm stalling. Chesh, you will be missed. Yeah, if I don't show up to Dapper's stream later, you know why. Okay, what does this say? Michael Yarmus says, okay, your views are different, but why? Please tell me why you put up the pic you did. What picture? Argue a point, don't lower yourself to name calling and making fun of looks. It's wrong on both sides. I don't recall making fun of Charlie Kirk's looks, but I will say he's got a Vegeta haircut, that's for sure. He's got a Vegeta hairline. Like, if you were to, like, scribble black on the top of his head, absolutely Vegeta hairline. But I don't think I talked about his looks. However, let me know what picture you're talking about. On the other hand, I will point out that why? It's an assessment to call him a dipshit. On the other hand, why should I give any respect to somebody who wants to, 1, remove my rights, 2, would force me to risk my life for a rape baby, and 3, has out loud said that women are simply vessels for pregnancy, for children? Why shouldn't I accurately assess him as a dumb fuck? Not mentioning someone's looks as a courtesy. Chesh, this is fine, Gip. This is fine. Am I not supposed to make fun of Hitler's stupid mustache? Yeah. This disproportionate idea of the... Remember when Charlie brought up as part of his argument that word policing was a problem, but it seems to be okay when his fans do it? Because you shouldn't be mean to Charlie Kirk. Is that the problem? That I'm mean to him? I don't care. Why shouldn't I be mean to him? He's a mean person. You want to remember how Dave Rubin defended Charlie Kirk? And how Charlie Kirk misrepresented and was mean to the people that he talked to at Cambridge? So it only applies one way, I guess? I mean, it's okay. I'll wait for Michael to answer. It's fine. Give him a minute. Charlie Kirk doesn't like hyper-feminine things like feelings. Well, and how much of that is related to based on somebody's appearance? Normalizing meanness. Yeah. Where'd you go? Yeah, I'm okay. It burns, but I'm alright. Well, alas, they seem to have tried to start some shit and run away. I can't say that's surprising. Oh, surprise, surprise. Womp womp. It's a shame. There's no views that I could go and look at and go to learn to understand. And they've got 4 numbers at the end of their name like they're a fake account or something. I know you were kidding. All right, let's do a little bit more of this and we'll probably stop.
We need to restore the balance that God created man and women, and right now they're in. By the way,
so it is about balance. Remember, I said earlier he's talking about this feminine masculine energy, right? Which is a vibe, which is a feeling. He feels this way, right? That this is the case. He doesn't have a measurement for femininity. There's no like fucking sliding scale, right? He feels that the balance between feminine energy and masculine energy is off because women are behaving more masculine, but men are behaving more feminine. Is that not leading to balance, though, overall? Right? Because if the idea is that there has to be this, as if men and women are opposites, or as if masculine and feminine are opposites, which I wouldn't agree with in the first place, but that's the way he's presenting it. If the balance has to be that you have this much femininity and this, like, so that they're equal, right? And women start being more masculine and men start being more feminine, does that not mean that they've equalized? So instead of only women being feminine and only men being masculine, if you've got some women being feminine or some women being masculine and some men being feminine, it means that it is equaled out the overall balance between masculinity and femininity and these energies that he's referring to that quote unquote God created. so his entire argument immediately fucking implodes based on his own fucking examples and reasoning? Go figure. Who'd have thought Charlie Kirk fucking implodes? To the surprise of fucking nobody. Alright, and this is also assuming you can even justify this whole idea that this is intended by God, even though it was God's intention to throw the world out of balance with sin anyway. War on empathy. Yeah, you're right. Facts don't care about your feelings, people, when their feelings are the facts. Anyway, Michael ran away. That's so sad. By the way, according to the Bible, humanity came from Eve and her fucking her sons. Well, you know, that's a little bit of incest in the Bible is, you know, par for the course. Charlie presumably thinks this Albanian social Alabama, I can't even say it. What did I say? Alabamian? Social structure should be emulated. Eve was technically the first trans woman in history created from a man's rib. You know, I don't know about that. You might make all of the religious the religious extremists like. Well, maybe I'm here for it. I'm here for trans Eve. I like the headcanon idea that God created Adam and Lilith as equals, and Adam couldn't handle it, so Lilith told him to fuck off, so Lilith went off on her own, and then Adam needed a trans woman, so God gave him one. Genetically male created from a man's bone. Yeah, it's equally as convincing, if not more so, than some of the other things in the Bible, so I'll take it. Fucking hell. Alright, that's enough for today. We'll come back and finish the other half next week. But tomorrow we're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson, and we're going to be discussing a lot of the expectations of media. But I will be also back later today live on Dapper Dino's channel doing some debunking, I guess, which is exciting. Tisdall Tuesdays. Woohoo! Femboy, Tradwife, Eve, Lilith, Dommy Mommy. I mean, presumably Seth did the same, impregnating his sisters. Well, Noah and his family would have had to have been copulating quite a bit amongst each other. Adam and Eve are the origin story of the Jews, not humanity. When they cast Cain forth, he found a wife from another tribe. That's true. That is a thing that is in the Bible. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys later, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Dapper's channel. I gotta clean something and wash all the Charlie Kirk ick off myself. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for supporting monetarily, and whether you're a member, whether or not you were able to help us reach that goal where I consumed this disgusting ghost pepper hot sauce. I cry! I hope everybody had a good Pride Month, as that is slowly coming to a close. Resist, do not obey preemptively. Good luck out there, Americans. I believe in you. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. We'll be back. This Saturday is Debate Pub. So if you want to talk politics, we'll be talking politics. We'll probably talk about Iran. We'll probably talk about Israel being a problem. Israel's really going out of its way to make itself a fucking problem for everybody. I'm not gonna lie. We'll probably talk about, like, World War III type shit. I was proud of being a straight cis male in an especially hyper-effeminate way. Can we have Pride Century? I don't know, can you? I'm here for it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back later tonight. Check out Debate Hub Official, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much. Like, share, comment. I'll see you later. Bye!
Scared, Daddy?